welcome in to Fat Beans Roasting Laboratory on a Monday here. It looks like P. Brogan is in, so what's up, P. Brogan? Today we're going to be doing a really quick roast. Mondays tend to be on the quicker side of the roasts, and first, that's right. I'm just going to kind of go through what we're going to be roasting today and just taking you through the steps. As always, you have any questions while we're roasting, please feel free to drop those in the chat. They can be coffee, roasting, brewing, or really anything at this point to keep me, from just talking to myself down here. Well, today we're going to continue our journey in the medium roast profiling of this Costa Rican Don Oscar La Montoya. The reason that we call this a medium to dark roast is it has tastes of raw sugar sweetness, understated with hints of walnut, baking chocolates, which are all brought out best in a medium to dark roast. And in fact, once I do the half this bag, so this is what typically a 5-pound bag. Once I do the first 2.5 pounds of this at the medium, I'm then going to start taking it almost to second crack and do the second half of this as just to get kind of the dichotomy of this roast, both medium and medium dark. I've done the first half pound of this, and let me tell you, it's really good. I primarily like to do the light fruity, or at least I thought I did. It's probably because I've never had medium roast this fresh, nor have I had dark roast very fresh. Light roast I've had fresh before, well, because I've done primarily light roast here, but the intense taste of sugar and chocolate that I got out of the first time roasting this was, it was really good. And I haven't quite converted from my light roast Ethiopian yet, but I can tell you that this is definitely going to be kind of a trade-off where I'm doing this half the day and Ethiopian half the day, whereas I was just doing Ethiopian all the time. So really excited to get this coffee tuned in on my B-More 2000 and maybe start sharing it out with the rest of the world, because it's something I'm really excited about. So, need some of them beans, absolutely. Well, right now Fat Beans is primarily local, so if you are not in the Kansas City region and you do, you're really starting to hunger for some well-roasted beans, more than happy to give you some suggestions of places that I hear. I'm always doing a little bit of research on who's roasting what. I would recommend it be local and fresh as you possibly can get it. But as you know, Fat Beans is always looking for travel shows, so I may be coming to a region near you and might bring some of this tasty home roast to you. So, what's the name of the person that grew tonight's beans? Well, the vegetable beard, his name is Don Oscar. Now, normally I wouldn't know that, but this particular lot has a name. Sometimes if the lot is a large grower who Sweet Maria's does a lot of business with, they will put their names on. So to answer your question, Don Oscar. And I'm guessing Don signifies that he's a landowner. I don't know. And A-Web, where they pasture raised. Now you can get out of there. Thanks be to Don. Yeah, I don't know if it's Don as in Donald, but Don Oscar. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get the machine all preheated here. With this particular roast, I want to preheat my machine to 230. At 230, this will begin first crack at 8 minutes and 30 seconds, or at least it has. So that is kind of the sweet spot, especially when we're going a little bit darker. I want to hit that first crack so that I can let the remaining amount of my time be devoted to development. The development time on this is going to be about 1 minute 45 seconds, or 1 minute 15 seconds after the last of the first crack happens. Now, the difference between drying time and development time is primarily reaching that first crack. When I'm going to drying, I'm just giving it full heat, I'm giving it full drum, and I'm just trying to get the beans to first crack as quickly as possible. That's kind of my technique, and it's the technique that I found best works with this machine. Other roasters with higher capacity machines that go faster will have different roast profiles, and every roaster is different. But for this machine, Really, I'm just trying to get it to first crack as quickly as possible. Anyway, so that's kind of my technique here. Then when I get it to first crack, I actually cut the heat down to 50%. That is because once they start cracking, the beans actually have enough heat that they've stored over the first 8.5 minutes that they begin to kind of produce their own heat. So then I take away the heat from the machine and I let the beans just kind of do their own thing. So when I say development time, that's where I cut most of the machine heat and I let the beans just go as dark as they have enough energy to do so. So that is kind of the technique I'm using here. Roll that beautiful bean footage. Well, vegetable beard, let's do it. So right now we're at about 131 degrees. Just getting it up to a temperature where it will, so much of my heat from the heating elements aren't going to be absorbed by the metal. Doesn't really do much for the beans as far as charging them. Charge the term that simply means getting energy into the beans as quickly as possible. This particular machine doesn't have a charge feature of it that say a gas roaster would, but what it does do is it kind of speeds up the time that the heat in the machine is not heating up the machine. So that's all that charging does. I also have my kitchen scale here. Nothing fancy, just an old refashioned Cuisinart. Probably not the most accurate, but good enough for what we're doing here. And the green beans. So we're just going to measure out ½ pound. For all you anti-imperialists, that's about 230 or so grams. So if you are ready to get rid of the imperial system altogether, and I know some of you in the chat are, we can always do grams and Celsius if you so feel that you need that kind of information. All right, so there we go, and let's see. Oh, the name Fat Beans. Well, let me get the fat beans started, and I will try to enlighten you the best that I can. Kind of a yarn, so I might have to spin it in several different pieces while we're roasting. But great question, A. Webb, and I think it's now time to fully dive into the origin of said name. And I'm guessing there's at least one person in the chat who can kind of help me out and clarify the story while I'm going, but I digress. So, got our machine all warmed up. Oh, there goes the bean can. You like that snack? So we'll get the beans in. See if we can't get to the bottom of this name. Alright, so P. Brogren, obviously, if you know me, that last name would probably signify a little bit of relation. But he has correctly signified the fact that big guy used to be a really big guy. And in fact, in high school, instead of losing weight and being proactive, I used to get teased a little bit. So I did what any chubby kid would do and just steered into it. So I figured before I could be made fun of for my weight, I would simply just try to beat everyone to the punch by referring to myself as Fat B. Now that's not fat female dog, that would be Fat B. And I took it one step further and I would graffiti it all over our high school, all over everything. In fact, I've been back to my high school, which is a very small high school in rural Nebraska. There is still Fat B inscribed all over that school. I did so much that my older brother thought that that would be a good license plate. So I got the license plate, and apparently Fat B doesn't translate to like, hey, I'm a fun-loving fat guy. It actually means like fat on my license plate. But carried that license plate around through college. In fact, again, instead of getting in shape or being healthy, I just really rolled with the Fat B moniker. It stuck because it's a great name. Now, since then, I've pulled my life together just a little bit, slimmed down quite a bit, and really tried to shed the Fat B name, but it is a big part of who I am, and it's kind of a big part of my personality. So when I started putting together coffee beans, Fat Beans just kind of felt right. So when we said Fat Beans, we wanted to mean that, you know, we're really plumping up our beans with roasting, but it's an homage to the name Fat B, who is the roaster. Also, we call it Coffee Labs, simply because we really like to steer into the science. We're not really trying to tell a lot of stories, make up a bunch of stuff about how we're, you know, out there using the extra, you know, resource sourced. I'm gonna let plain economics do the work. I'm gonna always look for the best quality, try to always roast to high quality, never try to skimp on my quality. But we are Coffee Labs because we let science do kind of gear our understanding and how we approach all of our methods. So that is the name, and I see Fat Beans, sure. But also, Jeannie McDonald has outed the fact that it is my birthday, so I do get older, I do age. I know my face doesn't show it, but yes, I am just a skosh older today, so thank you for all the shout outs there in the chat. I do appreciate that. All right. Also keeping our roast log here. Just trying to keep an eye on it. And if you were watching the bean cam, or the beautiful bean footage as it has been referred to in the chat. There. Almost forgot. Yep. Don't worry. You only had 34 of them to remember, but. Okay, drying out nicely. Coming along, looking good. This is a freshly cleaned machine. I do clean it out every 5 roasts. So that is one nice thing about the keeping track of the roast. I try to keep this machine clean every 5 roasts. That does help the longevity of the machine. Cleaning simply means just cleaning out some simple green and letting it run with just the heating elements on it. Statistics show that people with more birthdays tend to live longer, and 34, just a baby. Yep, both agreed. I know vegetable beer, that's like 6-7 years younger than you, right? I read that it's just a babe. So right now we've got to start tweaking with the machine a little bit because the preheating has worked. We are really at a hot rate. The beans are drying out fast, but the machine is getting way too hot, way too fast. So if you see me pushing a bunch of buttons, that's an effort to make sure that the machine doesn't start to overheat. Because this is flying along. This is very, very far ahead of what it normally is, which is a good thing, which is what we're trying to get to. But we want to make sure the machine just doesn't stop, because roasted coffee is good, half roasted coffee is trash. Vegetable beard. Would you consider coffee beans magical? I would, and that's not a farce. There is. I get into this argument all the time where people try to tell me that caffeine is bad. No. Sure, caffeine can be bad when you take it in some doctored up version of Monster Energy drink with 20 pounds of sugar on it, but coffee is magical. It turns your day around, it makes you feel better, incredible health benefits, and it holds a and I can't speak for this because I'm not a wine drinker, but it holds more flavor and aroma techniques than wine. To be able to do all those things, that's what I would consider to be a magical bean. Alright. Why is that happening? Because I preheated it and I cleaned it. So those two things are allowing this machine to heat up faster. As it gets more oil, the back heating elements get a little bit dirty. When I clean it, it is able to heat up much faster. It's very time consuming to clean it every time, but every 5 roasts I usually get a little bit faster speed on the 5th one. So that is why that is happening, Jeannie McDonald. How can you tell the beans are ready or done? Because they begin to crack and pop. That will signify first crack, which you would know as light roast. Then there is a second crack, which sounds a little bit like Rice Krispies. That will be your dark, medium to dark roast. Anything beyond that enters into Vienna or French, but most roasters or anyone beyond the French just call that burnt coffee. All right. What happened to the sweet title on the wall? That is actually roast room 2. So we have, lab. That is brew lab 2. This is brew lab 1. And then I also have 2 studios. So we are legit here in the Fat Beans studio. All right. Vodka rebuild aren't, I mean, it depends on who you ask. Anything in moderation. Amen. Let's hear it for the magical fruit. All right, so we're approaching 8 minutes. We got a good temperature inside the machine, and we got some good exhaust temperature. I would say that we start reaching first crack here about the next 45 minutes. Crack is whack. All right, well, thank you. Always good to get those PSAs in the chat on a Monday. So it looks like a good contingent of people, so thanks for joining us today. We are doing a Costa Rican roast tonight, and we are taking it medium dark. Just comparing a little bit of my notes from the last time I did a Costa Rican, and even though we started out real hot, it's still developing about the same. So that is good. We're right where we want to be. We're going to probably get first crack at 9 minutes and 30 seconds, which is about what this Costa Rican is doing. Costa Rican and other Central Americans, they tend to be a little bit lower grown, like in bowl grown. This, even though it's called, oh, hold on. Let the first crack happen here. Alright, so what I've done is I've cut the power, I've slowed down the drum, and I'm letting it develop in here. How long does an unroasted bag of beans last? How do you store it? An unroasted bag of beans can last up to 2 years, 6 months usually, and I store it in an airtight container in bags. Happy birthday, yes. Chocolate flavors, that's this one. And happy birthday. Alright, so again, it is my birthday. I do appreciate all the well wishes that I'm getting from you. Thank you very much on that. So, we're about 40 seconds into development, and the beans are just now stopping their crack. So what I want to do now is let them go for about another minute. That is going to really start to bring in that medium roast flavor. That's where a little bit of the acidity of the beans will begin to burn off, and the more the bittersweet taste will begin to develop here in this last minute. We're getting close to mitten time, so put these bad boys on. Look good, getting really smoky in here, that's a good sign. always got a quick trigger, but I want to let this go a little bit longer, and there we go. So we're gonna let this cool down for 30 seconds in the machine. The only reason we do that is because there's chaff and it's still incredibly hot in there. If I were to open this door, the chaff would rush through the machine and start a fire. There isn't any roasting technique to letting it sit here another 30 seconds. I'm trying to avoid a fire. Mitten time. Can you recreate the Bernie Sanders meme? I mean, ooh, we got some sparkers in here, so let's get this put away. Be right back. Yeah, insert stupid puns on the throwing on the ground comment. But no, I just put them in a colander and I'm sucking cold air through with the shop vac. It's some high-tech stuff we got here in the Fat Beans laboratory on Monday. So as I kind of iterate, home roasting, especially in the early phases, it's more about doing what works to get the best flavor possible. The big machines, your 70 kilograms or 150 pounders, they have everything built in, where you just dump the beans in, push a couple of buttons, coffee gets roasted. That is not the rig that we have, but arguably, easily the best coffee I've ever had has come from this machine. So with a little bit of tweaks, with watching numbers, with reading the internet, I've been able to create some really unique coffee here in this basement. So that is been the most exciting part of home roasting for me. Then picking them up one by one with those mittens. Really glad when the mittens become more popular than the overall host. That's a great feeling. Ever tried mixing beans? That's a good question, and I will answer that in about 2 minutes when I don't have all this vacuum noise going. And so 3 studios, one for roasting, one for brewing. What's the last one for? That would be the road show, A-Web. We are going to add a third element where we do a couple roasting shows. We still are doing the kitchen shows where we're doing a little bit of more testing with different recipes, different flavors, anything that you guys want to see as an audience. So if there's something you want to see in the kitchen in the next coming weeks, throw that in. Well, if there's any sort of equipment you've heard of or technique or recipe, and then we're going to start taking it on the road where I'm going to start going to coffee shops, different places. Hopefully when we get a little bit past this COVID-19, we'll start being able to go to other cities and check some things out. I've been in contact with a bunch of people. I think I'll have some cool remote sets. I don't know what the quality will look like, but we're going to start doing some remote sets just so I can get some inspiration. All right, so there's our Costa Rican medium, and oh yeah, that looks good. So as I said before, the old bean cam's not, oh, there we go. Oh yeah. So as I've said before, this has had some really good sugar tastes, some really unique flavors. I'm really coming around with this Costa Rican, and in fact, I think the next time I do a big order, this Don Oscar lot is still available. I'm going to try to get a lot more of these. So mixing beans. So really what I want to get good at is specialty, because that's probably in where I live is the hardest to get your hands on. I've lived in other cities, specifically Houston, where Vegetable Beard, of all people, told me about a really cool place that did just specialty roasts. They would keep 15 to 20 different, they had all at 8 origin countries with 15 different types for really reasonable prices, and that hasn't been available for me here in Kansas City. There is some specialty roasters here, and they do a pretty good job, but I really want to start experimenting with flavors and getting flavors to people that they may have never tried, or the only place they can get them from is like Whole Foods, and even then Whole Foods in Kansas City, you can't really get anything fresher in like 8 to 10 days. But mixing is the next journey that I go on, and it's something I'm starting to think about. You can do mixing 2 ways. You can do what's called pre-roast mixing, where you can be really, really creative. Onyx Coffee Labs in Roger, Arkansas, they've written so much on different mixing types. They've mixed decaf with calf and called like a half calf. They've done a lot of cool things that I'm looking to emulate, which is a cute way of saying rip off. And I'm really starting to read a lot more articles on mixing. It's just I'm not quite there. You can also mix after roast. So I could take a medium roast, mix it with a light roast, and that you could get away with that. I have done some mixing where I take 2 different flavors and combine them, but I will keep you up to date, and as we start adding that to our repertoire, I will kind of try to write some things up and explain what I'm doing. All right, that's super cool. Let's see, phase 2 of the show sounds awesome. Yeah, so I guess we are in some Marvel phases where we move from roasting to kitchen to more things. And again, really what phase 2 is going to be about is going to be what you guys, the audience, starts to feed to me. Only can make so many ideas on my own. Sometimes you get caught in an echo chamber. What I think is cool may not be cool to the people. All right, Lisa MB. Have you ever seen The Booze Traveler? You can be like him, but with coffee. I have not seen The Booze Traveler, but now I'm going to look at who The Booze Traveler is, because if I could be the coffee traveler, dream fulfilled. Okay, have you ever gotten beans from your favorite Costa Rican place that started your love? So they're called El Toledo, or El Toledo. You can follow on Instagram, El Toledo Coffee Tours. I've reached out, but they primarily do a very tourist experience where they're very, very small. They don't have a huge plantation. And in fact, most of what they sell, they're selling locally. I have talked to them, and I'm trying to angle getting something. All they ship is roasted. I don't want roasted coffee, I want green. But I have been reaching out to them. I will update you on as what I find out, but I do want to get my hands on that. That's a good question, Jill McDonald 311. I miss the house coffee beans. Yeah, the coffee house in Houston, if you're still in Houston, the coffee house, can't say enough good things about them. Houston is the greatest. Culinarily, Houston is the greatest. I agree with that. Do you make coffee decaffeinated? Do I? You can actually roast. It's in the roast. It's the type of beans, it's how they wash the beans, and then how you roast the beans is what makes it decaffeinated. So it is partially the grower, the washer, and then the roaster can manipulate how a decaffeinated bean comes out. Let's see. Just the gastro scene there, and lots of culture. Last week you said you were supposed to brew like right after the roast. So if you are roasting 2, couldn't you lose the flavors? So that's a good point, and it's where blends. You can do a lot of cool things, and I follow people who do some really interesting things with blended coffee. The problem is it's also kind of a shiesty way to get through old beans. Now, there was a good question asked about how long green beans last. 6 months. They start to really lose flavor after 6 months into 2 years when they're no good. So let's say I overbuy one type of bean. It's not popular anymore. I can then cut it in with a popular bean that's also getting old and start selling that as my house blend. So blends are a really cool way to experiment. They're also a good way to sneak off less than superior coffee. So because roasters are dealing with really big quantities, sometimes a house roast can actually just signal that it's not their best stuff. even at coffee shops, the house roast is usually the lowest quality beans and flavors because what they're going to do is they're going to dump it into that big percolating machine, and most of the flavor is going to get extracted off early on. All right, so that is a good question about blending. So if you see a roaster and all they do is blend, I would be very skeptical of what they're doing. They're probably buying a Brazilian, a very cheap Colombian, and then they're mixing it, calling it like Chief's Kingdom or something. Not saying that's just a name that I would think is probably popular right now here in Kansas City. They're Chief's Blend and then pushing it off on you. Your local sports team blend, your local, any sort of local name blend, Thanksgiving blend, Valentine's blend, that essentially is telling you that they are pushing old beans. Not always, but most of the time. All right. Like house wines, drinkable, but yes. So like house wines, they're just, it's an economics thing. The beautiful part, small roast, small order. I usually am ordering everything that I can get through within 2 months. I have yet to get to a green bean that has lived in this basement longer than a month and a half. I did buy a really big bag that I'm wondering, but as I start drinking, it just starts getting in the machine and then it's gone. So that is, it's economy of scale. When you scale down to a very, very small roaster, and that's all they want to be, it's like anything else, like a small restaurant with small tables. What you're going to get is going to be different. Say, going to Applebee's. That's not always the case. But going small allows for a little bit more experimentation and a lot more quality control. Okay, so some really good questions here. Throw another couple questions in the chat if you've got them. I just want to review a couple things before we go tonight. The Saturday show, thank you. A lot of you got Beans Coffee Labs has ever done by a very, very large number. So thank you for that. That was a lot of fun. Really thank you to Kyle Ross, who was a part of the show, came out, was a pro, kind of let me be silly, but really kept the integrity of the show. So a lot of good information. Kyle, I've done his pour-over method about 3 times since then. Cannot speak highly enough about how much that's changed my pour-over game at home. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out on Twitch. It's a lot of fun. Also, I will be roasting tonight, obviously. Wednesday, I might do Friday. Just depends on quantity of beans needed. And then we're planning on doing a Saturday show. We just don't know the theme yet. So if you have something you want to see in the kitchen, if you want to see Julie, say I want to see Julie. If there's something particular that you'd like to do on Saturday or see on Saturday, throw that in the chat. We are still planning what we want to do. I got a couple of ideas, but to keep it very audience focused, if there's something that you'd like to experience or see on Saturday, go ahead and throw that in the chat. Okay. Do you roast your beans at work or bring them pre-roasted? So are you talking about brewing, roasting? I roast here because this machine lets off a lot of smoke, and I'm lucky I have a basement with an exhaust fan that I get to roast inside. A lot of roasters aren't that lucky. A lot of people are braving the cold when they roast, especially home roast, because it does let off a lot of smoke. I am bringing stuff like this. I bring it in an airtight canister. I have a couple different airtights, and I'm bringing it and I'm brewing it at school, like many of you have seen me do time and time again. Love the Julie cameo always. I'd like a musical number, Fat Beans the musical. If you've got a type of music you want to hear, but that's going to be what we call the Red Line Show. I know a lot of you are very new to Twitch. Here's how Twitch works. You can play music on Twitch, it will destroy your video. You can't have any replay. But if I got a desire for a certain musical accoutrement one night, we will break the rules of Twitch and we'll just go pure live. So Let me know if that is. I mean, I'm not singing. I might hum a couple bars, depending on what kind of mood I'm in. But if that's what you want to see, we'll put something together for you. Are you able to show another type of brewing, like French press? Good question, Joe McDonald. I've been thinking about showing a French press. I don't know. It's not really much to show. It's just grind it up, put it in, pour the water on, and wait. But we could show a French press. That's definitely doable. We may just brush out old method that we've already done. Might just keep recycling them just to make it more of a chat, like kind of a state of the fat beans show. Those are always kind of interesting to get Julie to come in and talk about what's going on. We could do, or the Keurig. I mean, I guess we could do the Keurig. Done. Let's go ahead and give you a sneak peek. That's the Keurig show. But I mean, if you really want to see the Keurig, we could do that. Or does like the same type of coffee in multiple different ways. We could do that, we're going to tease this Super Bowl lead-up show. That's if it works for his schedule, but I've been talking with JM, I think it's, I don't know what his handle is, he hasn't chatted in a while, but I've been talking with the one and only Jimmy Bear Baby Beans, and that's going to be his first show where we do a bunch of different brewing types to tune in to Jim. But maybe we might let Julie experience a bunch of different roasting styles, take someone who likes coffee and try to dial something into that. That's a good idea. I like that. Okay, so anything else? Like I said, I'll be brewing again on Wednesday, doing something a little bit different. So Wednesday, to tease it, I'm breaking into my special stash here. We got an Ethiopian dry Goro. This one should be a lot of fun. It's got a chocolate covered blueberry attempt. So I really am intrigued by that. We'll be trying to get that out. So this is our Wednesday show. So if you are free, feel free to join us for that. It should be a roasting good time. Other than that, being that it is Big Guy's birthday, I think I'm going to go and grab some sleep. Let's see, answer a couple more questions here. Is that the kind that's eaten by cats? No, we will never do that. That is a gimmick, and we don't do gimmicks in the Fat Bees Roasting Laboratory. I don't know. Let's go try this. Oh, got to give you guys a shake before I go. Can't deny what you all really came here for. It is a natural attraction, and Mother Nature would not make a mistake. What really turns you guys on is the shake. Okay, so is there a spicy Maria? That sounds interesting. Wait, blueberry, I want to try. Yeah, blueberry is one thing that Ethiopians are known for if you get them in the right regions. Yirgacheffe is really known for their blueberry. This Guji that I have also has some blueberry. We'll talk about that. That should be good. I think it would be great for you to drink this coffee on Wednesday's show to tell us what flavors. I can do that. Sure, we'll do a live review of this coffee. Just one cup though. I will tell you, the Saturday night show, I was living about 2 inches above my bed for a better part of the overall production. So We can't have no 3 cups again, but I will. That's a good idea, Lisa MB. I will definitely provide you with that type of information. Getting chaffy, yep. Or have guests do blind coffee tastes and have people tell you which coffee is light, medium, dark. That's a good one. So I think if anyone wants to volunteer for that, that would be, we can definitely set some things up. I know a lot of you are from different regions, but I think that would be a fun one to try to put together, and I think I'll start working on the schematics of that. So thank you, A-Web, for that. Ooh, interesting, laughing out loud. Is there anything like blueberry crumble? Yeah, that's, we don't talk about that, Jeannie. That's my guilty, that's between you and me. But no, it's a whole different flavor element than just pouring blueberry flavor on a bean. Let's see, how late were you up on Saturday? I probably watched like 4 episodes of the Cobra Kai on Saturday, so I was, I logged the old midnight oil. It was an experience that I don't wish to recreate anytime soon. You are welcome. Okay, so thanks again. I will be doing this again on Wednesday, same place, same time, same general concept, but as you guys know, you're the straw that stirs the drink. So always, I appreciate the great comments. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for the well wishes today on this, my day of celebrating my complete trip around the sun. I am looking forward to the next trip, both just as a person who's been more than blessed with a great family and great friends, but also as we continue to tweak this adventure that Fat Beans is going to become, whatever that is. So, thank you very much. Excellent as always, and I will see you guys next time. As always, be easy.